Good afternoon, Year 11. Today we'll be discussing climate change. So, our learning objective of this lesson is by the end of this class, each and every student should be able to define climate change and should be able to identify its causes and effects and able to discuss the ways to minimize its effect. It is very simple and very short topic. It is based on our lesson plan, and basically this is the topic which is very interesting, right? And here in Fiji we are facing these challenges. So today we'll be discussing notes, and I hope all of you have a notebook out, and make sure you note down the points, important points which I'll be discussing. And at the end of the class I'll be giving some terminologies, some questions which you'll answer later. So I also have some visuals for you guys, and I'll go slowly, and if anything you are not sure about, you can ask, right? I'm here to assist you. So let's continue. So basically, you guys must be knowing that what is climate change from your general knowledge. So climate change is a long-term shift in the weather pattern which is determined by wind, temperature and precipitation. So it is a long shift in the weather pattern, right? Not for example 1 month. It's a long shift in the weather pattern that determines by wind, temperature and precipitation. So the wind, temperature and precipitation is a factor, is a feature of climate change, right? So secondly, we'll be discussing the impact of climate change on our environment in Fiji, right? So the impact, firstly we look at environmental impact. So the first environmental impact that we are facing here in the South Pacific is sea level rise, right? Sea level rise is a main concern, as you can see in the picture that Kiribati, this picture is of Kiribati, and the sea level is rising, right? And the land is going underwater, right? There is the wave coming in, the wave coming on the ground, right? And this is a very good example of climate change here in the Pacific, right? People from Kiribati, they are facing these difficulties, right? They are facing water shortage problem due to climate change because the land area which has fresh water, it is mostly covered with salt water because of the sea level rise, right? And the second factor that is affecting that the second factor that is affected, it's flood. Flooding is one of the factors that is caused by climate change due to unfavorable weather conditions, and it is before there was a time that it rains, right? Monsoon time it rains, but nowadays we don't have any time. So whenever it rains heavily, 1 or 2 3 days, then flooding occurs. And before there was less impact, less flooding, right? The flooding was not so devastating when we compare this, when we compare this to 2020. The flooding this year in these days are very devastating, and the water level really goes up, right? Maybe you have noticed when the flood comes, some of the towns go underwater. It's flooding. So another environmental impact is drought. Drought is a major concern, right? Drought, people suffer from drought mainly in western areas, Rikiriki, Tavua, Ba, Lotoka. they are facing drought, and this is caused by climate change. Climate change. So this is a huge topic, right? Then this branches going, its impact: sea level, flood, drought, right?
Earthquake.
So drought is a factor that really affecting people in Western Division. For example, if we see a very good example I can give is uh, the Angara pasture, right? They do cattle farming there, right? They do beef farming there, and whenever you go along that road at Angara, you can see all the grasses are brown, right? And this is because of this climate change. This is the main factor which is causing this drought, right? Here in this picture you can see that the land is cracked, right? The land is cracked, and it is very difficult for farmers to do farming here, right? It is very difficult for farmers to do farming here. So agriculture is affected, right? This all the impacts that are discussed here, it affects people, environment, and our economy as well. And another impact, it is tropical cyclone, right? So Fiji is a tropical country, right? So we experiencing tropical cyclones, right? And before, the cyclones were not so strong, and it was not so devastating. But now if the cyclone comes, it's very devastating, because the main cause of this tropical cyclone is climate change, right? Because cyclones, when they form, they want warm place, right? They want warm place, and due to climate change, Fiji's water, Pacific Ocean, I must say, it becomes very warm. So the cyclone take its path, come to Fiji and hit Fiji. I'm pretty much sure that all of you here sitting here can remember the tropical cyclone Winston that hit Fiji in 2016. On the 20th of February 2016, that hit Fiji. It was very devastating. Many islands, many schools, many hospitals, and many things were destroyed. Right? This climate change causes this. Right? These are the environmental factors. Right? So moving on, and well, we can say that climate change is not something it is happening by itself, but we are the main culprit. We as human are the main culprits who are contributing towards climate change. Right? I hope you are getting what I'm trying to say. Right? We as a human, we are contributing to climate change. Right? So I'll show you some examples. Right? So we influencing climate change. We as human, we are doing pollution. Right? Due to pollution, due to air pollution, it causes climate change. Because when we do air pollution, our ozone layer is being disturbed, it is being damaged, right? Then the sun's ray directly hit on the earth, and that's the time when we can experience hot weathers, because the ozone layer is damaged. That causes climate change. And not only air pollution, but deforestation also is a cause of climate change. Maybe by now you should be knowing what deforestation is. Right? It is cutting down of trees. So basically what happens, the tree gives us oxygen and takes in carbon dioxide, right? So when we cut down trees, there is no more tree left. So the carbon dioxide that we exhale from our body does not go anywhere. So directly it affects the environment. So when there will be more plants, more trees, it will absorb the carbon dioxide, and in return it will give the oxygen, right? So these are some of the factors that influence climate change. And moving on, I hope you are getting what I'm trying to say, because this is very simple and very interesting topic, I must say. And yes, so moving on. So how can we tell that we are experiencing climate change, right? So if you, it's for example, if we are sick, we will know that we are getting sick, right? Maybe our head will start to pain, our joints and body start to pain. Same here, same as this. When we are experiencing climate change, there are some small factors that tells us that we are experiencing that climate change. What are those factors, right? So temperature increase, temperature increase, right? One of the factors is the increase in temperature. For example, there's a hot day, right? And all of a sudden, like before, you were not feeling so warm or hot during the day, but now as the time pass, right, you are experiencing more hot, right? The air is very warm, right? And the increase in temperature tells us that yes, climate change is really happening, right? It is really evident in our country, because I must say that I can experience that climate change is happening, and you all can experience, because climate change, because we are experiencing hot weather, right? We are experiencing hot weather. And secondly, the change in precipitation, right? The change in precipitation. I hope you know what precipitation is, right? It's simply the rainfall, right? So change in precipitation. In this, what happens that the rain doesn't come when it's like the rain come unexpectedly, right? We don't expect the rain to fall, but it happens unexpectedly, all right? So that is another evidence of change in precipitation. So rainfall, right? Precipitation, it is a way where we can identify that climate change is happening, right? So we have discussed this, and I hope you all have noted down what I was explaining, because at the end of the class I'll be giving out some questions which you will answer later. So I'll check in next class. That questions I'll be checking in next class. And I'll be also giving some group activities, group works, which you will do in class, right? So moving on, the major negative impact of climate change, right? As I have already discussed some of the impact of climate change, that was environmental effect, right? That was environmental effect, right? So now we will be looking at human. We will be looking at impacts on human, social impacts of climate change, right? The social impact of climate change is basically when there is a lot of drought, farmers are heavily affected. They cannot do the farming on a dry piece of land, right? Their livestock are being killed due to less water, right? Farmers, they are affected. And when looking on to the agricultural side, right, then what happens when there is a dry piece of land and people do farming there, and it's a dry land, right? So it's bit costly. They have to invest more money in irrigating that, right? So they have to buy the water pumps and all those huge pipes, right, and do the setup so that they can grow the plants, do the farming in dry land, right? Because you all know without water we cannot survive, right? Whereas if there's excessive rain, right, if there's excessive rain, the flood occurs. And if the flood occurs, right, many things get disturbed. Farms, livestock, people's house, people's belonging, and sometimes people lose their life. Right? These are the factors that affect the impact on humans. Right? They cannot grow vegetables. They suffer from flooding, sea level rise. In Kiribati, people are evacuating this area. They are moving out from this area. They had to leave their home, right? They have to abandon this place because about another 10 years this island will go underwater. So they are living there for so many years, and all of a sudden they have to evacuate that place, and they are affected. Their emotions are being affected because they were living here for so many years, and now they are changing their place to new place, and it's kind of hurting, right? That's the factors that are affecting human climate change, right? And and some of the economic effects, right? So economic effect, as I have said, right? And moving on, I'll be discuss the ways to minimize its effect, right? So the ways to minimize its effect, right? We can do sustainable development, right? We should not do pollution, afforestation, planting of more trees. If you cut down one tree, you should plant one tree, right? We should not do pollution. We should not do pollution. We should not throw rubbish here and there. Burning of fossil fuel should be stopped. And most of the companies, they dump their oil in the sea. That should be stopped. This is the, we cannot stop the effects of, we cannot stop climate change, but we can minimize its effects. Alright? So yeah, this was all for today. And after this class, I'll be giving some some questions, some terminologies, which you will be answering at home. And tomorrow's class, I'll be checking that. So I hope you have understood everything. And stay safe. Good luck. And we'll meet in next class. Thank you very much.